Get some!
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. Look, in the second hour of today's show, chock full of amazing cultural stories that I can't wait to talk about. I think they tell a lot about our society. Some of them have to do with politics, some of them don't, and they're very interesting. But in the first hour here, we're gonna have some absolutely heartbreaking stories, and it's the nature of what we do. Sorry, but it's important that you know, because if you don't know, you will have the wrong assumptions about what's happening in the world. And people will use those wrong assumptions against you. They'll weaponize it. So don't let people weaponize ignorance against you. Get educated on what's actually happening, and we're about to tell you.
An update on the IDF's behavior, conduct, and military activity in Gaza.
You can see in this video from the Israeli military, the crowds of people around these trucks. But what appears to have happened is that the Israeli military opened fire on some of these people who are surrounding these trucks. Now, eyewitnesses on the scene have told us that Israeli tanks as well as drones opened fire on this crowd, and that following that, there was a chaotic scene.
In yet another appalling war crime that will, of course, receive cover by the United States government, Israeli forces fired on a crowd of Palestinian civilians who were crowding a humanitarian aid truck, desperately seeking food in northern Gaza. Now, it's important to keep in mind that we are talking about northern Gaza, which has effectively been cut off from any humanitarian aid. We're talking about people who did not evacuate to the south. Humanitarian aid organizations have had a lot of difficulty reaching them. And since they swarmed the humanitarian aid truck, the IDF took it as an opportunity to fire at them, killing hundreds of people. Now, the death toll is very likely to change, but more than 100 people have been reported killed as a result of this. The death toll in Gaza is believed to have surpassed 30,000 people at this point. Now, Israeli officials acknowledged that troops opened fire, saying they did so after the crowd approached in a threatening way. The officials insisted on anonymity to give details about what happened after the military said in a statement that dozens were killed and injured from pushing, trampling, and being run over by the trucks. So the IDF and the Israeli government would have you believe that no, we didn't shoot at them. Yes, these bullet-riddled bodies laying on the floor do exist, but that wasn't us. It was the trampling that caused these deaths. Complete and utter BS. And hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are believed to remain in northern Gaza, and many have been reduced to eating animal fodder to survive. The UN says that 1 in 6 children under 2 in the north suffer from acute malnutrition and wasting. And the UN also says that a quarter of Gaza's, and this is the entire Gaza Strip, a quarter of Gaza's 2.3 million Palestinians face starvation. Around 80% have fled their homes. And I want to go to what witnesses said about what was happening at the scene before I go to you, Cenk. So Kamel Abu Nahel, who was being treated for a gunshot wound at Shifa Hospital, said that he and others went to the distribution point in the middle of the night because they heard that there would be food. They've been eating bird food. They've been eating animal fodder. They're desperate for food. So they show up, and he says, "We've been eating animal feed for 2 months, so you can imagine how hungry they are." He said Israeli troops opened fire on the crowd as people pulled boxes of flour and canned goods off the trucks, causing them to scatter, with some hiding under cars. After the shooting stopped, people went back to the trucks and the soldiers opened fire again. He was shot in the leg and fell over, and then a truck ran over his leg as it sped off, he said. Ala Abu Daye, a witness of that violence, said that Israeli troops opened fire and also that a tank fired a shell. Those attempting to deliver humanitarian aid tried to get away from the shooting and the danger that was being caused as a result of the IDF firing at them. And as a result, they unfortunately did end up running some people over, but do not make the mistake of buying into the lies and propaganda by the Israeli government. That is not the main reason why people were killed. In fact, Jeremy Diamond at CNN, who's done some excellent reporting on the ground, has a report that I want to share with you all in regard to this episode. Let's watch.
Our eyewitnesses on the ground indicate that it was the Israeli gunfire that prompted some of those trucks to flee the scene and in the process run over some of these individuals. But we are still working to gather additional details. The Israeli military says for its part that the incident is under review, and they are also saying in a statement that Gazan residents surrounded the trucks, looted the supplies being delivered, and that during the incident, dozens of Gazans, they say, were injured as a result of pushing and trampling. This was clearly more than just pushing and trampling, and we have eyewitnesses making very clear that the Israeli military did indeed open fire on these individuals.
So desperate people seeking flour, anything, any sustenance, considering the fact that they have been left to starve to death. And as they're swarming the humanitarian aid convoy, the trucks, they get fired at by the IDF.
So
who are the animals?
Yeah.
Who are the animals, Cenk? Who are the animals? Because I'm getting real sick of people on social media referring to Palestinian civilians as animals. Because every story that we've covered, everything that we've investigated and looked into, does not really show Palestinians behaving as animals. It shows the IDF behaving as animals. People who feel real good about themselves, shooting their weapons at desperate people as they swarm a humanitarian aid truck. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So latest numbers are 112 dead, 760 injured. 576,000 Palestinians are now starving. And this is what starving looks like. Now, the Israelis say, or it's confirmed by international news outlets like CNN, that the Israelis fired from the tanks and from drones. And they said they were worried about their troops. Where were the troops? Inside the tanks? They weren't in the drones. So the guys that were inside tanks were slightly concerned, I guess, about this is the best case scenario for Israel that I'm laying out, about their safety within the tank. So they murdered 112 people at least. And when you started firing into the crowd, what did you think was going to happen? Other than the slaughter from your bullets, that hungry, desperate crowd, of course, was going to panic when you started spraying the place with bullets, and the trucks were going to panic. And you knew that would also create a stampede. And the drones, how about the drones? Were the drones afraid that that their hardware or plastic was going to get attacked? So somehow they were going to jump up and grab a drone with no one inside of it? And why would that be a concern? Why are you murdering people with drones when you actually see them and you see that they are not at all fighters and they are people desperate for food, and Israel murders them? So if that breaks your heart, good, you still have one. You still have one, good. If you say it breaks your heart to hear me say it, as opposed to the fact that Israel is actually doing it and actually murdering those people, then there's something wrong with you. You think, I don't care about those people, I don't view Palestine. You have to admit it. If you don't think that it's that big a deal and that Israel is right, especially in this instance, if you think Israel's right and you trust your beloved terrorist IDF, and you look at them murdering those people in cold blood as they're starving them, as they're keeping them in a ghetto and a camp, and you look at that and go, no, the problem is people reporting that fact. It's not the fact, the problem is not us doing it. Our beloved democracy ally Israel. Is this what a democracy looks like? Is this what an ally looks like? Is this what decency or morality looks like? This is now one of the sickest governments in the whole world. In my whole lifetime, I've never seen slaughter like this on live television. Yeah, I know this Bashar al-Assad, Kim Jong-un, Saddam Hussein, etc. have done terrible things. But these are being televised, brothers and sisters. So you could say, hey, well, that doesn't.
And defended by our government. That's the important thing to remember. Because I don't remember the US government defending the chemical weapons attacks that Bashar al-Assad was doing.
In fact, we bombed Bashar al-Assad. We bombed Saddam Hussein. We threatened to bomb Kim Jong-un. We applaud Israel and give them money.
And weapons.
Right now, the Senate already passed a bill to send $14 billion for more slaughter. It's a slaughterhouse in Gaza. Every day that we delay, the IDF murders more Palestinians. Today, Lloyd Austin, our Secretary of Defense, admitted in testimony in Congress, Israel has murdered more than 25,000 women and children. Women and children. Remember that our hearts broke, and we said it on this show, for 36 babies that were killed in Israel, 36 children. And that should break your heart. You've got 25,000 dead babies, children, women stacked on top of one another. And now 576,000 people that are starving and desperate and eating animal fodder. What kind of sick maniacs do this? Terrorists do this. Benjamin Netanyahu is 100% a terrorist and one of the worst terrorists of my lifetime. 25 times the terrorist that Hamas is. Definitely a terrorist. Don't give me this nonsense that, when Arabs do it or when Muslims do it and when the powerless do it, they're no good scumbag terrorists. But when a state does it, a so-called ally does it, and they do it 25, 30 times worse. No, angels. They had to do it. No, you cannot be in favor of this. If you're in favor of this, you have lost your soul. You have lost your morality. You have lost decency. The IDF now is the largest terrorist organization in the world. If you say, no, that's not fair. We were just murdering 30,000 of them and starving them and humiliating them and shooting them with drones and treating them like animals. But you don't get to call us names. You don't get to call us names. No, I do get to call you names. Israel's one of the worst governments on earth right now. And if you care about Israel, and I think people are so blinded by their bias. But if you say the Palestinians, who gives a goddamn about them? Murder them. Who cares about the Palestinians? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the hell out of here. That defense ended months and months and months ago. This is just brutality and savagery. So if it breaks your heart to hear the truth, good, do something about it. And so if you don't mind murdering Palestinians and treating them like animals, how about Israel? Listen, you fools, you utter fools, the right-wing government of Israel, our stupid monsters in our Congress. Do you not understand? We are all seeing this. Your lies about how Israel has to do it, no one believes it. No one, other than the propaganda-filled, bias-filled heads in Washington. The rest of us look at it, and what do you think's happening? What do you think the world thinks about Israel now? Do you not get it, you schmucks? You unbelievable idiots. If Turkey was doing this, when Turkey did, 1% of this, I was furious because it's gonna make people hate me. Do you not get it? Are you so thick-headed you can't get it? The world now despises Israel because of this. No, it's because we're the victims. Who looks at that tape and says the Palestinians are not the victims, the Israelis murdering them are the victims? You would have to be a lunatic to believe that. So the people in power in our government, that's the people we can affect. Those politicians, they're the worst people on earth. They approved that $14 billion to murder more of these poor innocent people. They are the most immoral people I have ever seen in my lifetime. They don't speak for me. I'm not for the monsters in Washington. I'm 100% against those monsters, yes, including that despicable, awful human being, Joe Biden. Joe Biden looks at that and goes, send him more money.
Send them more bombs. Kill them, kill them, kill them. That's what Joe Biden says. Same goddamn thing Donald Trump says. Our leaders are monsters. And you think, you idiots, you think you're helping Israel? You're getting the whole world to despise Israel. You morons. You've done so much damage to Palestinians and to Israelis. But keep murdering and see if you can murder your way out of this. Outrageous. If your heart doesn't break, you don't have one.
Let's take a break. We'll be back.
Apparently, I could not contain myself. Okay, let's go to our members. Luke Y. Sam G writes in, starving civilians congregated for food are easier targets than regular civilians. So Israel took advantage of the opportunity. Doctors report seeing kids 5 to 8 years old with sniper bullet holes in their heads.
Well, they were threatening, you know.
Hiding behind human shields. Really, there was a Hamas guy right behind a 5-year-old's skull? You goddamn liars. If you don't think the IDF as an organization is a terrorist organization, you're kidding yourself. It's one of the largest terrorists, if not the largest terrorist organization in the world right now. If that offends you, I don't give a goddamn what it does. I don't care at all what it does. I'm supposed to be worried about your feelings? They had 5 infants on an incubator. You're supposed to have 1 per incubator. They start dying because there's no incubators left. Tons of babies are dying in the first 2 months because of malnutrition. Baby born, died, because there's nothing to eat. They're starving them to death right now. Do you think that helps Israel? Anyone who thinks that this war is helping Israel is the dumbest person on earth. And you're all tied for the dumbest people on earth. So unbelievably dumb. This is helping Israel? I can't imagine a way to hurt Israel more than this. Oh, I got a great idea. Why don't we get the whole world to absolutely despise us? Are you insane? Are you insane? Are you insane? I have Jewish family and friends. What are you doing? What are you doing? Israel's gonna get everybody killed. Morons, and they want to start a war with Iran? Are you lunatics? The people in government I'm not talking about Israel's government, our government, bunch of lunatics. Greed, 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 where's the money? Where's the donor money? Oh, Lockheed Martin wants another war. And I'm supposed to think Joe Biden's a pleasant guy. Joe Biden's a piece of crap. He's lower than dirt. Oh, he has bad words for Netanyahu behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, he once said something bad to Netanyahu. Somebody else talked about if this isn't a genocide, what it is. We're getting past genocide here, guys. This is just one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Cenk, Anna, and appropriately titled handle on YouTube, Cenk's Raging Emotions, has just become a member. If you want Israeli propaganda, good news, you have 1 billion networks out there for you. If you want somebody to remain calm, I see, well, the Israeli IDF says that maybe it was the Palestinians' own fault for us murdering them. There you got 100 options. You want people who tell you the truth? You got one option here. So anyway, look, members, you either make us happen or you don't. And so imagine a moment where, our advertisers, I can't even get into it. Let me just say, either members make this show possible or poof, one day it goes away and you go, where'd it go, where'd it go? Well, if you don't take money from Lockheed Martin, you don't take money from corporate giant advertisers who will cut you off if you say the things that we say, and we have been cut off in a lot of ways, well, then this is not gonna exist. So anyways, thank you to all the members who keep us alive under the most difficult circumstances so we could deliver the truth to you guys. All right, Anna.
Honestly, it's hard to give a crap about anything else. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
How do you start with that story and follow it up with anything else?
Yep, that is 100% right. So, but we have to keep going. So we have to tell you about dumbass Donald Trump. Then we have to listen to stupid Democrats tell us, oh no, but Trump is so much worse. I know he's worse. I'm the guy who said it and who tried to prevent the disaster that was Donald Trump, but you morons picked Hillary Clinton. Oh no, we know this. Oh, we are so smart. We're so smart. Hillary Clinton's definitely gonna win, Cenk. We're so smart. Joe Biden's so good. He's so good. Okay, yeah, Trump's a monster. Let's tell him how Trump's a monster. But Joe Biden, he's an angel, right? No, Joe Biden also a terrible human being, a disgusting human being. Oh, you can't say that. You're supposed to do propaganda for him. No, we're not gonna do propaganda for him. F him, I don't care about him. If you do, if you have some sort of emotional attachment to Joe Biden, also something very wrong with you. All right, Anna, go ahead.
Donald Trump will be taken off the Republican primary ballot in Illinois now that a judge in the state has weighed in on the matter. Now, Cook County Circuit Court Judge Tracy Porter cited January 6th for the reasoning behind her decision to take Trump off the Republican primary ballot. But her ruling is placed on hold to give Trump time to appeal before the state's March 19th primary. Now, Porter's ruling said that based on engaging in insurrection on January 6th of 2021, his name should be removed from the ballot. How this case came to be, let's get into that. A group of 5 petitioners asked the state to remove Trump from the primary ballot on January 4th, the day he submitted filings to appear on the ballot, Porter wrote in her ruling. The petitioners also asked the Cook County Circuit Court for judicial review of the matter. Now, Trump has already appealed this, his campaign has already appealed this, and the Supreme Court is actually already hearing arguments in regard to the state of Colorado doing something very similar. Illinois is the 3rd state where Trump was deemed ineligible for the primary ballot, and similar rulings have also been issued in Colorado and in Maine. Both are also on pause. So in each instance where Trump was booted from the ballot, the disqualification clause of the Constitution's 14th Amendment was cited, and we have gotten into that argument before, but just as a reminder, I'll tell you what that portion of the Constitution says. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is a Civil War era provision that holds that someone who has taken an oath to the Constitution as a member of Congress, as an officer of the United States, as a member of any state legislature, or as a state executive or judicial officer, and has engaged in insurrection cannot hold public office, but it does not specify whether the provision applies to presidents, even though, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious it does, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, guys, so as I told you before, Donald Trump did commit an insurrection. He did a fake elector plot to do a coup against the country. I know, MAGA doesn't care, they love it. We asked them, do you like dictators? They say, yeah, we much prefer that Donald Trump be a dictator than Joe Biden be president. So we're not gonna affect him. Independents, I get it, man. You think you're angry with Joe Biden, you should get a load of how angry I am with Joe Biden, okay? So, but this isn't about that. This is about, number one, did he do the insurrection? Absolutely, positively.
He planned a coup against America. He knew he lost, and he tried to stay in office anyway because he hates the idea of freedom, democracy. He just wants to be in charge. He's a spoiled little brat, one of the worst people in the country. If you look up to him as your leader, I feel sick for you. Okay, now having said that, you can see to say that I'm not a fan of Donald Trump would be the biggest understatement you could possibly have. But guys, we didn't prove insurrection. The dumbass Democrats never even charged it. And the idiot corporate Republicans who actually hate Donald Trump, and they have the massive problems of their own, but they could have ended him in the impeachment, in the second impeachment. But Mitch McConnell and the others were cowards, total other cowards. So they didn't convict him in the Senate. So if you didn't convict him in the Senate, which would have said you can't run again, and you never charged him with insurrection, and you never proved it in court, and you waited 2.5 years to charge him because you thought he's one of the elites, we don't want to hurt any of the elites. Oh gosh, he's running again, so let's now charge him. And now you're too late. You're too late. So now after to send in your Democratic judges and now say, well, we kind of think he did an insurrection. I mean, that's not the standard in the Constitution, but I kind of think so. And Cenk said it on air. Is that good enough? No, it's not good enough. It's not anywhere near good enough. So of course he should go on the ballot. You know what's gonna happen if he doesn't go on the ballot? Because randos decided that he committed an insurrection without any conviction? People are gonna go nuts. You're gonna tear this country apart. And look, I'll do it if I thought it was right. But you didn't follow the right. You can't argue for the rule of law and then not follow the rule of law. Merrick Garland should have charged him with insurrection on day one. But that coward loser sat on his hands for 2.5 years. Well, maybe the single worst attorney general we've ever had. So now the Democrats come crying and go, oh, we don't like it, he's winning in the polls. Can we take him off the ballots? Because we think he did an insurrection even though we didn't charge him and we didn't prove it. Well, no, losers, that's not how it works. He's gonna go on the ballot and he's probably gonna kick your ass because you're totally detached from reality and detached from the American people. So good luck. I warned you 100 times about Donald Trump, but the one people who definitely do not believe that Donald Trump is a danger is Democratic leadership. No person in their right mind, if you thought you were gonna lose the country, imagine if your family's life's on the line, you're gonna run Joe Biden, an 81-year-old corpse. No, it's not about Joe Biden. It's Democrats don't think that Donald Trump's a real danger. Otherwise, they would never act like this. This is just blatant dumbass cheating at the end. God, that's so stupid, especially when your main tagline in the election is democracy's on the line. Democracy's on the line and I'd like to remove the guy running against me from the ballot? I mean, can you imagine a worse campaign message?
Are we gonna pretend like Democrats haven't made a mockery of our democratic process for years now? Are we really gonna, we're gonna pretend?
Are you kidding me?
They didn't allow for, in this election, they didn't allow for a robust primary. They squashed any mention of primary debates. They didn't allow people to even appear on the ballots. They didn't allow primary elections in specific states like Florida. But that's just during this election. Okay, the games that the DNC and the Democratic establishment plays, specifically during the primaries when most Americans unfortunately aren't paying attention, is amazing. And they get away with it because most Americans don't pay attention to the primaries that are incredibly important. So you're not left with a crap sandwich at the end, okay? Who do you go for? Do you go for someone you can't stand or someone you hate even more? That's what our general elections have become because no one pays attention to primaries. And for the Democratic voters who do pay attention to primaries, the Democratic establishment doesn't really allow you to have a choice, do they? They play all sorts of games and they crush anyone who dare challenge the status quo among the Democratic Party. So please spare me the whining and crying about, oh, Republicans don't value our democracy, because I guarantee you, neither do the Democrats who call the shots during these primary elections, period. And so honestly, at this point, every time I hear one of them get into one of their little rants about how dangerous Trump is, I can't help but roll my eyes. It's hard for me to take it seriously, Cenk.
Yeah, no, I understand. There's two camps and they're both totally detached from reality. There's the MAGA guys who think that Donald Trump won the election, and then even though he can't present one piece of evidence in court, not one, in over 60 trials in the beginning, now he's on trial for subverting democracy in Atlanta and in the federal case, he still hasn't presented one piece of evidence that he actually won the election. Mike Lindell just lost $5 million because he said, oh yeah, you could prove that he lost the election. And then Trump supporter proved that he lost the election. But you can't get through to them because they've lost their minds and they don't care. They hate facts. Now on the blue, oh, you're feeling really good, blue side, right? Blue team, yeah. And on the blue side, you say, oh, well, of course you end elections in a primary. That's the Democratic thing to do. Of course you don't question the leader, even if the leader is incompetent, is in the 30s in the polling, is definitely going to, it's just falling apart at the seams. Don't. Everybody in media has to lie in favor of the dear leader, and that dear leader is young and has the vitality and is amazing and is such a great human being and loves democracy. And by the way, as I say all these things, tons of Democrats go, yeah, that's definitely true. Are you going to say that's not true? Guys, wakey, you're detached from reality. None of that is true. He's a walking corpse, and he's trying to cancel elections all throughout the primaries, and he's doing every dirty trick there is, including this story, where they didn't actually try Donald Trump on insurrection, and now they're having the courts go, Biden's gonna lose, eliminate him, just take him off the ballots, just take him off the ballots, right? And still, blue MAGA thinks, no. Well, of course, no, if you favor democracy, you don't have any in the primary, you only obey the authoritarian leader, and you make sure that no one can run against you in the primary or the general election. And that's why we're pro-democracy. No, both sides hate democracy. They just want to be in charge. So the only people that are right are the people in the middle who are getting crunched by these two evil forces.
Speaking of evil forces, let's get into Gavin Newsom. Looks like some people are finally waking up to how corrupt and sleazy he is, and that's what this next story is about.
You look at what this governor Newsom from California, isn't that his name, Newsom? What he's done to California is unbelievable.
True. Donald Trump speaking the truth about the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, someone who I've been trying to warn the fine people in our audience about for quite some time now. But apparently his latest corrupt scheme has led to enough backlash that he's getting negative national attention, which I'm excited about because it's important for Americans to know who he really is. Now, California's corrupt snake of a governor is now facing backlash for a minimum wage exemption that he specifically pushed for one of his donors in the state of California. So Newsom is also facing an investigation into this corruption by Republicans in the state. And this is a good example of a Republican-led effort that I fully support. Now, a new law in California will raise the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour. Workers will begin receiving their new wages beginning on April 1st. Now, this is the Fast Food Accountability and Standards Recovery Act. The legislation was designed to give employees a role in regulating the industry by including them in a council with business representatives that could basically set wage and workplace standards, among other things. So this is overall really good news, right? You have a little tiny taste of what typically happens in European countries that have strong labor unions. The labor unions usually negotiate the wages on behalf of the workers, which is why Scandinavian countries typically don't have a federal minimum wage or something like that in their countries. They have labor unions that do the fighting on behalf of the workers. And so that's kind of what we're seeing here with the labor unions in California. And it's a policy that only pertains to fast food, and it was a big push by the labor unions representing the fast food workers. The new law in California will impact 500,000 people. So this is, again, overall good news. But then Gavin Newsom comes in and he fights tooth and nail for a very specific carve out that applies only to a very specific chain of fast casual restaurants in California, Panera Bread. Interesting. So let's get into the details. The new law doesn't recognize places that operate a bakery that produces for sale on the establishment's premises bread as fast food, according to the law's text. Wow, that's strange. What's the reasoning behind that weird carve out? Why that exemption? So the exemption meant bakeries were also off the hook on industry standards that could have been established by a fast food council with authority to set rules about working conditions. So basically, overall, Panera is exempt from this new law that seeks to create better working conditions for fast food workers. Now, when Newsom was asked about his reasoning behind the carve out, this is what he said. That's part of the sausage making. Yeah, he's a piece of crap.
Or bread making.
Yeah. So Newsom personally pushed for the exemption, make no mistake about it. One of the primary beneficiaries of the exemption is Greg Flynn, a billionaire and longtime Newsom donor who has 24 Panera Bread locations in California. Flynn has also been involved in Newsom's campaigns, donating $100,000 in 2021 to help Newsom fight against a recall, and $64,800 in 2022, which went to the governor's re-election campaign. I'm not done yet, Cenk. I want to get into some more details. Flynn, by the way, is worth $1.1 billion. Flynn has also been involved in business dealings with Gavin Newsom. They've done business together. So a business connection goes back to 2014 when Flynn acquired a Napa Valley resort managed by Newsom's hospitality company. Newsom, and this is all according to Bloomberg, who was then serving as California's lieutenant governor, reported an undisclosed amount of income from Flynn's company that year. So they did business together. Newsom is taking, obviously legalized bribes from Flynn, and then he returns the favor by fighting tooth and nail for a very special carve out that will be beneficial to his friend who's been shelling out the cash, funding his effort to avoid getting recalled. And by the way, there's now a new effort to recall him, and I hope it works. I'll give you the details in a moment, but Cenk, jump in.
So this story is both about Gavin Newsom and it isn't. The more important part is the broader point. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But on Gavin Newsom, he's a very standard, slimy, corrupt, corporate politician. So I know if you're a Democrat, that breaks your heart, but I don't get it. He's so good looking and he goes on TV all the time and he defends the beloved Biden and California. We love California and he's the governor of California and we love Democrats.
No one loves him.
Okay, so now, no. Are you kidding me? I know
yes, all the privileged Democratic voters in California who fund terrible policies that cause a lot of damage to disenfranchised communities in this state, and they get to live in their nice, beautiful, gated communities while everyone else deals with the consequences. Yes, those are the guys who love Gavin Newsom.
There's two groups of people.
The French Laundry crowd, they love Gavin Newsom.
That's right.
Yeah.
So rich Democrats can't get enough of Gavin Newsom. They think they fanboy over him. They think he's like the greatest guy in the world. And to be fair to them, from
he'll look out for them.
Yeah, from their perspective, it makes sense. No one looks out for those rich Democratic donors better than Gavin Newsom does, which I'm going to give you an example in a second. And unfortunately, a lot of good people who watch or read mainstream media, they're tricked, they're brainwashed into believing that these people are on your side. So let me give you another example so that it's crystal clear. And you can look at any of this up in mainstream outlets. They publish it once and then never talk about it again. PG&E, so that's the main utility company in California. Everybody says bury your lines, they're up in the sky, and as soon as there's a storm, they fall into the forest, they start giant fires and people die. And the entire town of Paradise wiped off the face of the earth, and we go on, right? But Newsom refuses to do that and put that regulation into place. You're gonna be shocked to find out PG&E has given him over $10 million in bribes. I mean, campaign contributions in his career. And you will find Democrats go, no. When Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump take that money, it is evil. When Gavin Newsom takes it, he's an angel. He must have had a real secret reason for being angelic. And no, he doesn't care about the fires and he doesn't care about the Panera workers getting the wages that they're supposed to care. Again, he cares about his donors. So I hate to ruin your fantasies, childlike fantasies about Democrats and definitely Republicans. Don't get me wrong, the Republicans do it just as much, if not more, okay? I don't want anybody having nonsense tribal fantasies about the politicians on either side being angels. No, they're just servants. That's all they are. So Gavin Newsom gets money from people like the Panera guy, and he serves him. I mean, look at this carve out. Look at this insane carve out.
And by the way,
for people who make bread in the exact way that Panera does, and the guy's funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to him. If you can't see that that's corruption, no, you've lost your mind. You're just like MAGA.
The carve
totally
out,
detached from reality.
The carve out is so narrow that it only applies to Panera Bread.
Come on, guys, come on. Who could possibly believe that's not a bribe? Who could possibly? And it's some of the smartest people in the country because they're rich, and so they think that's why I love that guy. All right, so why is it broader? Why is it more important? Because they've now started to look into people's donors. Whether Trump is asking people to look into Koch brothers and other donors, and now they're starting to look into Gavin Newsom's donors. This was the most forbidden thing in American politics for 40 years. No one was ever allowed to talk about donors. Now we've started a conversation about donors, and that conversation ends very poorly for almost every Democrat and almost every Republican in the country. Not the voters. The voters, you're finally getting to see the truth, okay? But all these politicians are professional crooks, period.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go to YouTube Super Chat. A lot of you have been wonderful here. Noel Rednexic wrote in, both the Dems and Reps want to be in charge and they're trying to beat each other to the punch to dismantle democracy before millennials and Gen Z are in the majority. That's just 100% right. Both sides are utter panic that young people have found out that they're crooks. So they're trying to cut off every way that you can. If you're not, okay, I'm not allowed to. Okay, so I can say it about the Republican primary. If you're not voting in primaries, you're nuts. You're saying, yeah, I'm gonna obey. I'm gonna be an obedient little servant of the ruling class. Primaries are where revolutions happen. Lewis Malone says, are the aliens still offering rides? I need a timeout from this governmental lunacy. Genocide, really? Damn. Yeah, you speak for all of us. Tim Leahy says, thanks Anna and Cenk for reporting and analyzing the news from Gaza. Our extended family are in Gaza and we're so worried about their survival. Imagine if you had family in Gaza. I know in American government, Palestinians are not humans. But for the rest of us, they're actually human beings. They have children like you have children. Imagine if you had kids inside Gaza now. Imagine the panic that you would have. When I imagine it, I almost can't contain myself, as you guys see. Daniel Labiqua writes, and Cenk, the number of dead are beyond 30,000. I speak to the journalists and docs in Gaza every day. They are very clear the number is 3 to 4 times higher. I know there's still a lot of people buried. We're just going with the most conservative numbers. And even when you go with the most conservative numbers, Israeli propaganda agents, swarm media. We did a story about how they've hired a firm that's Biden's top allies to very much do exactly propaganda, yelling at anyone who dares to tell the truth about Israel and try to get them fired. And then they go, what? I don't know why everybody thinks that Israel is maybe, calling the shots. Oh, that's an outrageous thought. Really? You don't see the lobbyists? You don't see the PR people? You don't see the political contributions? Do you think we're all stupid? Is that what you think? I don't care what any of them say anymore. Anthony McClendon says, remember how the Republicans basically handed the 2020 nomination to Trump without a real primary and despite his unpopularity? How did that work out for them? Great, let's repeat that in 2024. Yes, but you can't talk sense to the mainstream Democrats. They've lost their minds. AK writes in, hey TYT, I love you. Shortergoods Dragon says, the truth, the honesty, Cenk and Anna are the best and all others are, all of the others on the network. Benjamin Morrow says, free Palestine, thank you both for caring. Alvi Sheriff says, I will rather vote for a fascist who's a threat to democracy rather than voting for a monster who lets genocide happen for the last 5 months. So we have to pick between a fascist and a guy who is cheerleading and funding a genocide. This is democracy? Okay, Katie Lash says, Anna, I see how much you love and care for humanity. You are such a badass in the best way possible. Cat Scratch Box 13 says, Jenk's impassioned speech really got me. I'm a grandchild of refugees. Thank you for giving this ferocious voice. All right, back on TYT, Cenk. Anna and all these new members, Cooking Edibles Dragon, Miguel Wallace, DeBoy Rebate, River 2C, and Jonathan Sismus, thank you for upgrading. You could also upgrade through the join button below. And all these beautiful people for donating memberships to others. William Zaragoza, Benjamin Morrill, Drink Your OJ, Anthony McClendon, Lisa Ferris, and Nicholas Pecora. We love you guys. Anna.
All right, let's talk about people wanting to indoctrinate kids in school.
This is the moment that life begins. A new human being has come into existence. At fertilization, her gender, ethnicity, hair color, eye color, and countless traits are already determined. Her cells organize into what we call an embryo. At 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's heartbeat can be detected.
No, it can't. That's actually not true at all. And it is disturbing that that is the type of video that's now being mandated in certain public schools in the country as a result of conservatives winning the indoctrination war in our public schools. So what you just watched was Baby Olivia, a video that was made by an anti-abortion group about fetal development. It's filled with inaccuracies and propaganda meant to push an agenda. But some states across the country are now considering requiring public schools to show the video to both middle school and high school students. So we'll get to that shortly, but before we do, let's get to know the group behind the video. Live Action, the makers of the Baby Olivia video, describes itself on its website as leading pro-life advocates. The group says it exists today to shift public opinion on abortion and is dedicated to supporting a culture of life. They're against abortion in all cases, including in situations involving rape or incest. So it's also not too surprising that their video is not scientifically accurate. Aside from falsely claiming that a fetal heartbeat can be detected in just 3 weeks following conception, the video also describes the fetus's motions and actions in ways that are not at all backed up by science. Here's an example.
At the beginning of the 9th week, Olivia will have grown from a single cell into nearly 1 billion cells, and she is now called a fetus. She will suck her thumb and swallow, grasp an object, touch her face, sigh and stretch. At 11 weeks, she is playing in the womb, moving her body and exploring her environment.
There's no scientific basis for saying an 11-week-old fetus is playing in the womb. Medical experts say the video is misleading because of, well, a number of reasons. Number one, it mischaracterizes how soon fetuses can exhibit certain traits, and it uses a timeline for pregnancy 2 weeks earlier than is typical. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said in an email that the video is anti-abortion misinformation designed to manipulate the emotions of viewers. Its leaders have played the animated video to legislative audiences, like during a session at a conference held last year by the Conservative American Legislative Exchange Council, also known as ALEC. Well, they're back in the news, great. And that has led to multiple states pushing for the video or something similar to that video being played in public schools, including in North Dakota, where it's already been passed into law, Kentucky, Missouri, Iowa, West Virginia. And just this week, Iowa's House of Representatives passed a bill requiring health classes in 7th grade through high school to show Baby Olivia or a comparable video. Iowa Representative Luana Stoltenberg, who is a Republican, said that she was impressed by the video's portrayal of science. Here's her quote. What's the worst that can happen? Maybe a young child learns how they are developed and grow. And so if they become pregnant, they decide maybe I don't want to have an abortion. Is that a horrible thing? Would it be a horrible thing if we actually taught our kids to, read, do math, do the basic things that kids were typically able to do after graduating high school? something that a lot of kids are struggling with today? Can we just get both sides to get the F out of education, okay? This is just so all of it is so stupid, but like these kids are doomed. These kids can't freaking read and they're gonna watch baby Olivia videos. Okay, congratulations, America, we're doing great.
Okay, this story is about two things. One is abortion, the other is propaganda. And why the Republicans have decided to do propaganda on this issue aimed at kids is really interesting. But first, let's talk about abortion. So half the stuff they say in there is actually debatable, not just flat out false. They play around with when they start counting. Most doctors start counting from the end of your last menstrual cycle. They start counting from a theoretical conception, so they cut off 2 weeks, okay? But you can make that argument. They could debate that back and forth. They say that life begins at conception. Well, I don't think so. A great majority of people don't think so, but it's debatable, right? And that's a conversation you could have. That's a legitimate conversation. Now, but there are other parts of the video that are not at all legitimate. So for example, the kid starts playing in the womb at 11 weeks, totally made up. It's not a kid, it's a zygote until 10 weeks and then it becomes a fetus. So it barely even exists at that point. It has no brain to play with. It doesn't make any sense. They're just using that to emotionally manipulate you when it has no basis in scientific fact. Then they say, oh, a heartbeat starts in, what is it, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, some insane number. Not even close to true. Those are electrical impulses. And if they go, oh yeah, you're just finding a different word for it. No, you're not getting it. No heart exists at that point. At that point, it's a zygote. Later on, once it becomes a fetus, around 10, 11 weeks, the 4 chambers of the heart start forming. You don't get the 4 chambers and the blood pumping until 17 to 20 weeks in. So if you hear something else, it is a verifiable lie. It is done on purpose to deceive you because they're not winning the argument. They're losing the argument. The American people don't agree with them, which leads us to the propaganda. Why are they putting it in schools? Remember all the times that they said, oh, the liberals are trying to brainwash our kids. They couldn't actually point to anything political in the books. We never said you have to have this agenda or that agenda. Like they get upset if you just teach the history of, for example, slavery or racism or whatever. And they're like, oh, that's telling the truth. You're indoctrinating kids with truth and history. That's not indoctrination, that's called an education. This, on the other hand, is, you can see, purposeful indoctrination and propaganda. And it turns out Republicans love it. They do it on purpose. Why are they targeting the kids though? That's weird, right? Why not try to win the election so you can get this law passed? Because they realize once they lost the ballot measures in Kansas, Kentucky, and Montana, that they are a significant minority. The overwhelming majority of the country, including in the reddest states, wants abortion to be legal. And these zealots, these religious fundamentalists that want to rule our lives with their despicable version of fundamentalist Christianity say, well, we don't like that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna brainwash the kids so that in 20 years, we'll win the ballot measures in the polls. We gotta go younger, do indoctrination, because we've already lost the country. So we have to regain the country by brainwashing the kids. These are the despicable people that run the Republican Party and that are the leaders of the right-wing movement right now.
Kids can't read in America. One of the richest countries in the world. But okay, back in the day, back before I realized how good we had it and how much things would devolve, let's say 2012, 2013, I remember, the story that we would cover all the time was how they were fighting back against comprehensive sex ed because they didn't want kids to learn about condoms. They were scared that kids would learn about birth control and condoms. Those were quaint times. Those were apparently the halcyon days, if you will, because things have devolved so much. But look, I know that I don't have a hopeful message here because they're gonna win and they're gonna implement this and that's it. Because anyone who wants sanity in the country, anyone who wants kids to actually get a decent education, they want good neighborhoods, good communities, a happy country, a united electorate. Even if they have disagreements politically, that they're at least civil to each other and they'll cast their ballot and everyone respects each other. Those days are over. Because you have so much greed and so much obsession with forcing your beliefs or their beliefs onto everyone else. Everyone's got to believe what they believe. That's what this is all about. Yeah. So there's no, I don't want to say there's no hope because that is such a dark thing to say on this show, but That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so I've used this analogy before. Imagine if it's Muslim fundamentalists in North Dakota and all these other red states, and they're like, no, we're gonna teach the kids that you are not allowed to draw the pictures of the Prophet Muhammad or any human being, because that's our beliefs. Everybody would logically say, yeah, brother, that's your belief, you don't draw it. Why are you teaching our kids that they're not allowed to draw? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But when you take it and do it about some invented rule in Christianity, half the country goes, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we should force everyone else to believe what we believe. Why? Is it a free country or isn't it a free country? No, we should force them to do what we say because that's freedom. And we should take away their ability to control their own bodies. Can you imagine anything less in favor of freedom? Why? Because they're immoral and we're moral. F off. No, fight them with every fiber of your being. These body snatchers, these right-wing zealots, the American Taliban want to go and tell you, no, you're going to do this and your body's now the property of the US government. And you think you're against big government? By the way, read your Bible, Numbers 5:11 through 31. The Bible is 100% in favor of abortion. Your right-wing leaders are totally, utterly lying to you. You know how you could tell who's telling truth? Me or every one of these lying so-called church leaders in America? Read the Bible, Numbers 5:11 through 31. Go ahead, I dare you. You know what you're gonna find out? God loves abortion and commands you to do an abortion if you think your wife is cheating on you. It's a sad day for you. That's the reality of the Bible.
The final thing I'll say about this is in West Virginia specifically, the Republican-controlled state Senate has already greenlit a similar bill that would mandate that this video is shown to students in public education, but the bill does not explicitly grant an opt-out for parents. You know, because Republicans are super into parental rights and giving parents an option to opt out if they're unhappy with certain things that are being taught in school, especially certain things that are obviously promoted by a right-wing activist group that has a political agenda in mind. So, all right, cool. I mean, what a joke, what an absolute joke. We gotta take a break. When we come back for the second hour of the show, we've got Monica Lewinsky being celebrated as an icon on TikTok. The story honestly annoys me, and I'll explain why when we come back. We've got that and more, don't miss it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like. tyt.com/join and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny. Bye. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refused to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier, and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either.
Back on TYT, Jen Canana and all of these beautiful human beings that contributed or became members at TYT.com. Sue Sukalski, Kay Sedani, Daler T71, Bookworm Dave, and Aunt Betta. Sorry if I mispronounce your handles, but thank you all. We appreciate you so much. And you guys, well, you allow this show to happen. So all of us thank you. All right, Anna's got more news. Oh, wow, sorry. Let me just read these two. These are YouTube members. Tor Yvolsker, J Black 239S, B Benanum, 4 Dragons, Woozle 1967, Katie Cooper, Orrin Fullerton, Cod Sterling and Friends Fantasy Mission Force, Whizpig Tactics, Kelsey J, thank you for upgrading. Boulder the Point, Gary Hawker and Sarah Sawyer, thank you for upgrading. And DKL Galactus and VKR, thank you for gifting your memberships. We love you guys. You allow us to do this, and it's an honor. Anna.
Monica Lewinsky is back in the news, and this is why.
No other campaigns matter now. Reformation just won the game. They won the game. This is incredible. I have no words for how brilliant a campaign this is. This was the post they put up 5 days ago, teasing a little help from a friend in their new campaign. Are you guys ready for this? I don't even know if I was ready for this. Monica flipping Lewinsky.
There's a pretty big ad campaign out there. It features a clothing brand that I particularly like, although the very obvious ad campaigning that's happening in the media is kind of annoying, but it's Reformation that has done this collaboration with vote.org, and they have used Monica Lewinsky in their ad campaign. And as a result, some young Americans are learning about Lewinsky for the first time, and they allegedly see her as an icon based on reporters who are doing sponsored print articles that find a TikTok video here or there and pretend like there's a big trend of young people who are falling over themselves in admiration for Monica Lewinsky. That's really what this story is. And it's annoying. So with that said, on Tuesday, Reformation dropped their new workwear line called You've Got the Power in collaboration with vote.org. Let's take a look at the graphic. So intended to encourage people to vote in the 2024 presidential election. Is it? The campaign stars former White House intern Monica Lewinsky. Lewinsky rose to fame back in the 1990s after she had an affair as an intern with Bill Clinton. She was Bill Clinton's intern, serious power imbalance there. And so what happened to her, and more importantly, how she was treated after that affair became public was absolutely disgusting. It was disgraceful. The way that she was interviewed in the press about it by someone who I had admired, Barbara Walters, absolutely disgusting and disgraceful. So I have a lot of sympathy for Monica Lewinsky and what she went through in a very, very public way. With that said, this clear campaign for Reformation clothing, that's what this is really about, annoys me because they're like, it's shrouded in a bunch of BS. So this is the kind of BS I'm talking about. I'm gonna skip ahead to the Vote.org CEO, Andrea Haley. She says that Lewinsky's presence in this campaign ad for Reformation is gonna have a huge impact on young voters. This is what she says. We're grateful to Reformation and Monica for using their platforms to support Vote.org's work to ensure that young people and underrepresented communities of color can overcome the barriers to the ballot box and vote in this critical 2024 election. How? Like, Monica Lewinsky is featured in an ad campaign for Reformation. How exactly is this gonna help increase the vote among young people? But more importantly, like, it's just, I just feel like there's like a boilerplate thing that they just use in every campaign. Wait, we gotta put underrepresented communities of color in the messaging somehow, even though none of what we're doing has any impact on what we claim it's gonna have an impact on. Am I weirdly annoyed by this? Like, it's just so obvious to me that this is nothing more than a stupid ad, and everyone's like pretending like it's more than that. It's not more than that. It's nothing other than an ad for Reformation clothing. That's it.
What are we supposed to vote for? Like, okay, but look, I have a slight difference than Anna on this. So first I'm gonna talk about Monica Lewinsky. So for those of you who weren't around, and I realized as soon as this story came in, I'm like, wow. Like instantly I thought, oh yeah, Gen Z probably has no idea who she is.
I was a baby when it happened. Not literally a baby, but I was a child. I think I was in elementary school.
Oh my God, that's depressing. Okay, so back then, obviously she had an affair with Bill Clinton, or Bill Clinton had an affair with her. Yes, obviously she was an intern. He was the president of the United States of America. Now pause, Democrats, and imagine if Donald Trump had done that.
Oh, we know what the reaction would be. We know.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, nevertheless, back then I was a Republican, but as always, I was actually principled and honest, and I thought Clinton should not have been impeached. It might have been a terrible thing that he did, but it was personal, and it had nothing to do with the crime or misdemeanor. It was total garbage impeachment, and I said it clearly back then. Having said that, what the Clintons did to Monica Lewinsky was unspeakable, and they've never been held to account for it.
100%.
They viciously lied about her
100%.
and made her sound like she was a nut job who had lost her mind. And they both knew, both Bill and Hillary Clinton knew that Bill Clinton had slept with her. And they smeared the hell out of that innocent civilian that Bill Clinton had already had sex with, and then had the indecency to try to ruin her life. So those are the people who the Clintons are. The Clintons are terrible human beings. I know in DC they think Henry Kissinger is lovely, the Clintons are lovely. You know why? Because the people in DC are immoral. So now we turn to the pop culture today. The second thing I thought the minute I saw the Monica Lewinsky story was, oh, Gen Z and millennials are gonna love her. They're gonna call her queen, right? Because she was the victim in a lot of, in every way I think that you can imagine. I mean, she made a volitional choice and she was an adult, right? But the way that they smeared her, both the Republicans, Democrats, everyone involved, was just awful to her, and she withstood that. And this day and age, she'd be considered a hero. Back then, just seeing people rip her apart was unreal, and it was, again, as always, a gaslighting torture chamber, as if she was the one at fault, right? And so I'm not surprised at all. And the marketers here, to be fair to them, brilliant.
Really?
Absolutely. Attention grabbing?
Obvious.
No, not at all obvious.
It's like the most obvious.
No way. Most people that see this, they're gonna think Queen, Slayer, etc. They're not gonna have any idea that this isn't about voting. I mean, that's not fair to say they're not gonna have any idea. A lot of people know, right? A majority of people, they get it. It's marketing, right? But it's effective marketing.
Cenk, what evidence do you have that young women on TikTok are looking at Monica Lewinsky right now and losing their minds? That there's like this giant trend of young people.
I don't have evidence.
Because there is no evidence. This is the journalists, reporters, whatever, people who work in print, they're doing the same thing with TikTok that they had been doing with Twitter. And I'm gonna put a stop to it right away in the minds of our audience, okay? Just because a reporter goes through social media platform, and cherry picks a video or two that says something that goes along with whatever narrative they're looking for their piece, doesn't mean that there's a trend of young people losing their minds over Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, so I want to be clear about those two things. Number one, I'm saying it as a prediction. I'm not saying like, oh, I've got the data on it. I want to be super clear about that. My guess is that people will react well to this for good reasons, because she was this victim in a time where no one cared about victims, right? And so, but I'm guessing. And it has gotten a lot of attention. A lot of it is coordinated attention,
yes.
A part of a marketing campaign.
Yes.
But it is effectively getting it out there, and they do this brilliantly. And look, if you're gonna push voting as the part of your campaign, well, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's a company doing a good thing. I don't want to say, oh, it's terrible. It's a perfectly good message, right? But I do want to tell you about how reporters cherry pick, to the point that Anna made, because it's absolutely right.
Before you do, I have to jump in, because you want to give Reformation credit for this campaign and trying to get people to vote. It's better that they're doing something positive instead of negative. I hear you. But if they want to do something good for Americans, they should go back to what they used to do, which was manufacture their garments here in America with American workers who make at least a decent wage. That's what Reformation used to do. I used to shop at Reformation. Their dresses are not cheap, pretty expensive dresses. But they went from advertising their Made America, branding, to all of a sudden, without a peep, and I didn't notice this until like a year and a half ago. I looked at the tag on the dress, made in China. No, but I started shopping at Reformation, and I ate the high cost of buying their dresses because I wanted to support American workers. What happened?
Yeah, so that's a different issue, but
it is. But if you want to do something to get kudos from me on this show, go back to paying American workers to make your garments.
So on the cherry picking point that Anna made, if you don't know this, the way that the journalists play this game is they pretend to be objective. So they are saying, I'm not saying that I'm in favor of this or that. So what they do is they go find people who will say it for them. Those are the quotes in the story. But if they get quotes that don't match the story they want to tell, they discard them, they don't use them. So they cherry pick only the quotes that they want. And we've shown you this in very serious political articles where mainstream media will want to say, a certain agenda, and they will ignore overwhelming quotes, evidence, facts, that's on the other side, and only present the cherry picked quotes and evidence. And I know journalists and reporters who do this and say, well, of course that's what we're doing. And it's happened to me, it's happened to people I know, where they'll give a quote and go, okay, are you gonna print that? And they'll say, no, it doesn't fit our narrative. Okay, then why don't you just admit it? You're either biased or you're helping them to do a marketing campaign, maybe they're an advertiser of yours, etc. But they're never going to be honest with you. So when people get frustrated at mainstream media, that is among the things that they get frustrated at. They pervert reality.
Yep.
And then pretend that that it's outrageous to call them out on it. They declare their bias, their perspective, and sometimes their financial perspective to be objective.
Yeah, and the reports about this have all sorts of affiliate links, meaning, if you click on the link, it will take you to the Reformation website so you can buy their products. But look, let's be fair. Let's go to one of the cherry-picked videos featuring a TikToker, Emily Carmelli, who explains the specific reasoning Reformation went with Lewinsky for this campaign.
This to me is an example of strong brand marketing. It goes beyond your classic celebrity Hailey Bieber spokesperson opportunity. It's a true partnership that gives the brand clout beyond celebrity appeal and really makes you think. There's obviously the subtle nod to politics inherent in Monica Lewinsky's name, which makes sense since this is a campaign focused on voting, but it's not in the cheeky way you might think or just lazily associate her name with. Instead, the association comes from the theme of empowerment and using voting as a tool to feel empowered. And who's had a better empowerment, redemption, taking ownership of your own past story arc than Monica Lewinsky? All while looking like this, no less. I mean, she literally looks like a supermodel. Lauren Cohen, the chief creative officer of Reformation, said Monica's been empowering women to use their voices and feel powerful for a long time. So it makes sense that she would help Reformation do the same. I'm just obsessed. Monica Lewinsky really had her redemption arc during the Me Too era. This is really her stepping into her icon era outside of her past at age 50.
I don't want to be cruel, so I'm gonna let you take it, Cenk.
Yeah, so money corrupts everything around us because TikTok used to be pure for a minute. Then marketers realized the strength and power of the virality of TikTok. So they then started paying off influencers. And so we told you a story, a couple of days ago about how what was it? They are paying influencers that are for dieting.
Yes, so marketers for Ozempic and Ozempic-like drugs are paying. They're called fat acceptance influencers. That's how they refer to themselves. And they're paying them to be affiliates where they literally do advertising on their platforms.
For weight loss.
Yeah.
The people who say you should accept your weight are now, because they took money, telling you you've got to lose weight through this product.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so I give that as an example. So I don't know these particular folks at all, so I'm not saying anything about them. I'm just saying now, you go on TikTok, you have no idea who's being paid and who's not being paid. Do I have any idea that that's her genuine opinion or if she's part of this marketing campaign? I don't know.
Well, this is the thing. She says in that video that this is not an example of like one of those like cheap stunts that really has nothing to do with the message that they're claiming they're trying to send. Like in this case, it would be encouraging people to vote. She's specifically talked about like other celebrities who have been used in like marketing campaigns just to attach like a celebrity name to a mission or to something they want to get done. But how is this any different?
How does
Monica Lewinsky empower anyone? Like, look, you might be, if you do feel empowered by Monica Lewinsky, great, but explain to me where the empowerment comes. Where does it come from?
So look, they could make the argument she's trying to take her life back, etc. And God bless, I want Monica Lewinsky to be empowered. I support her 100%, etc.
Me too, it's not about her, but
yeah, 100%. But but why does that empower you? All right, maybe it does in some way. I'm actually more forgiving of that. But this motivates you to vote, does it?
No, how does this work exactly? Like I'm trying to understand. They're trying to sell it to us. So do a better job explaining exactly how this would work. How would looking at images of Monica Lewinsky looking beautiful, how would that empower me? And then that would translate into me feeling so empowered that I'm gonna go vote.
About like, not only is there no logical connection there, guys, it's actually deeply ironic. Because what is Monica Lewinsky known for? She's known for both parties being despicable to her. The Republicans used her as a tactic to try to end Bill Clinton's career, and they're the ones who outed her and who shamed her when they did terrible things. And then the Democrats smeared her and pretended she was a liar and a mental patient, etc. And like vote for the two monsters that destroyed Monica Lewinsky's life.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. I didn't even think about it that way, but you're absolutely right. Vote for what? Which party? Which politician? By the way, I mean, okay, let's put it in the context of this upcoming general election, assuming, for good reason, that the two candidates will be Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Anybody watch the videos of the Anita Hill hearings, of which, of course, Joe Biden was leading?
Yeah.
The disgusting way he treated her during those hearings.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to vote for that guy? Is that the guy I'm supposed to vote for? Is that the guy who's supposed to make me feel so empowered that I'm gonna vote for him?
Did you know that Joe Biden?
And obviously Donald Trump, I mean, that needs no explanation, right? I mean,
so Donald Trump, all of his crimes, literal crimes, and all the terrible things he's done, you probably know. You might believe it, you might not believe it, but they're out in the public. Did you know that Joe Biden would not allow Anita Hill to have witnesses on her side? Even though he was the Democratic chair of that committee. He was pretending to be on Anita Hill's side while he was secretly torpedoing her and humiliating her by not showing corroborating witnesses.
Oh, so gross. I remember going back and watching the entirety of that hearing for a story that I was producing, and I wanted to do my due diligence and watch that hearing. And it was awful. And look, I understand that we have different standards today. And if you go back and see the way the culture was back in the day, it was very different and it was awful, and it was particularly heinous toward women who had allegations of sexual assault or sexual harassment. But I can't stand the whitewashing of the bad behavior that these career politicians have engaged in the entirety of their careers.
Yeah, and they do it all the time for Joe Biden. So he lied about getting arrested with Nelson Mandela. What an outrageous lie during apartheid. What an outrageous lie. And the media covered it up and said it's illegitimate to talk about. Why? If Donald Trump had done that lie, we'd never stop talking about it. It doesn't mean you should stop talking about Trump. It means you should be honest about both parties. But now, because of Reformation, I'm gonna go enthusiastically vote for the fascist or the liar. Thank you, we appreciate it. This really worked.
By the way, I'm sure the child labor in China feels real empowered making the garments for Reformation. We got to take a break. We'll be back with more news, including a hedge fund manager who was shocked at the price of his breakfast in a fancy, ritzy Manhattan hotel. That and more coming up, don't miss it.
Let's go to our members. B. wrote in, Cenk, your righteous angry rant somehow makes me feel better. Still devastated over what Israel's doing with the US government's blessing, but it's good to know that I'm not crazy, that the IDF apologists are the monsters. Thank you for sharing your true feelings. Thank you as well, Anna. Your commentary on this war has also been amazing, and I can't imagine how hard it is to look at the news in Gaza every day. And thank you to everyone at TYT for keeping me sane.
Can I jump in on something else in response to that? It's not just all the death and destruction and suffering that you have to watch videos of to produce these stories and do your research. It's also the people who make justifications for it in America, right? The people who come for you when you report on these stories and talk about what's happening to Palestinians in Gaza. I don't know, man. Even with everything that we've talked about on the show for many, many years and all the horrible atrocities we've covered on the show for many, many years, the thing that's really soul crushing is how people in America, sometimes people you know personally, how they very clearly, openly, honestly value the lives of one group over the other, to the point where they will justify the slaughter of literal innocent kids, babies. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't freaking understand it. And it's like the largest black pill I've ever taken in my life. It just is. It makes you feel so empty and so sad inside. And that's what I'm struggling with.
Yeah, I understand that probably better than anyone else, because you're a wonderful, empathetic human being and you're experiencing that to some degree. I have been told many, many times by people in Washington, including reporters, that what Israel's doing is not outrageous. What I'm saying is outrageous. And that I'm a radical outcast who's not legitimate anymore because I'm telling you what Israel's actually doing. But Israel's fine. The slaughter's fine. Well, we have misgivings. Misgivings have been had, okay? But I'm the bad guy. Art Guy says, Cenk embodies the fury of decent people watching this atrocity unfold. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother, because you guys keep us sane. Otherwise, we have to deal with all the lunatics. Ouchmine Nards writes in, this is why I watch TYT. Angry Jedi says, how could you contain yourself, Cenk? Dance57 says, Cenk is telling it like it is more than anybody I've seen on any media. Thank you, I appreciate that. We'll be back. back on TYT. Look at all these wonderful human beings. These are folks who hit the join button below and just became members on YouTube. Human Without Borders, Army Annie, DJ Squirt House, Buzzman 1985, Michael Gardner, Gypsy Rock said, happy to be back as a member. TYT needs to exist. Thank you all that you do as it relates to giving us news that is informed and honest. Mikey 3343 upgraded membership, so did Boyd Huff. You could also upgrade through the join button. Boomer Dragon, Michael Gardner, and Keith Curry II gifted memberships, and they're wonderful for doing that. We appreciate all you guys. We do this show together. This is a community that cares about all human beings. All human beings, whether they're Israelis or Palestinians, whether they're Palestinians or Israelis, whether they're Jews, Muslims, Christians, or whatever else. Democrats and Republicans, and independents, we care about everyone and innocent lives. We're for sanity and decency. And if you're part of that community, come join us, because we need you, and together we'll be strong enough to survive anything.
But I do think it's okay to be indecent to certain politicians, okay?
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is what we do on this show often. All right, with that said, I hate Gavin Newsom. Let's talk about a hedge fund manager in Manhattan. All right. Yesterday, a hedge fund manager by the name of Kyle Bass furiously posted about his expensive breakfast on X. He was complaining about Bidenomics while doing so because Bidenomics had a lot to do with the expensive Manhattan hotel he decided to stay at with their expensive breakfast for room service. So with that said, Bass, who's the founder and chief investment officer of Heyman Capital Management, wrote this. Terrible inflation milestone reached. My first $85 breakfast for one at a New York City hotel. After signing this bill, I have decided never again. Hashtag Biden, hashtag inflation. He tagged Janet Yellen and the Federal Reserve while doing this. Honestly, that makes the story even more funny. It's like one of those I'd like to speak to the manager moments, but it's a hedge fund manager demanding to speak to Janet Yellen. Okay, head of the Treasury.
Wow, because to be fair, he is her boss.
Well, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Okay, in case you don't know, because mainstream media flat out lies to you and pretends that the politicians are in charge. The politicians aren't in charge at all. The donors are in charge. If you cross a donor, you're eliminated and you're gone. So the rich guys like this do run the country. And note, they are not from any particular religion or background. Yeah. They're just rich, okay? You could be any background you like, any nationality, as long as you're rich. So, but
like, what is Janet Yellen gonna do? Are you expecting Janet Yellen to call the hotel, the fancy hotel you're staying at in New York, and be like, listen, my homeboy, this hedge fund manager, really didn't want to spend $85 on his room-serviced breakfast. So can you handle that for me? Like, it's like the most hilarious thing I've seen.
Yeah, and and he's saying, get inflation under control. All the companies that you invested in at your hedge fund, none of them did price gouging. And I defined as, hey, I'm taking extra profit beyond inflation because it looks like the market will bear it.
Exactly.
I guarantee you that if he's watching this right now, he goes, well, they have a fiduciary responsibility to take that. Yes, brother, that's what caused inflation, not Janet Yellen. And if you say it's Janet Yellen, well, part of the reason for that is because she, along with the Fed, authorized the printing of a lot more money, and they handed it to who? Largely to you guys.
Yes.
That's what caused inflation.
Yes. You know how they do that sometimes?
Yeah.
At events, that snap, that deserved a snap. Okay, so let's take a look at his receipt. It is outrageous. I do agree that this is an outrageously priced breakfast. But normal people would look at a menu, they'd look at the prices, and they'd say, no, I'm not gonna spend $12 on bacon, or $14 on orange juice, or $8 on a Diet Coke for breakfast, which is super weird. Or $9, it's the cover charge, which appears to be the in-room dining surcharge that they usually implement with room service. And look, I get it, room service is very expensive, and if I ever do it, I see it as a treat, but I know what I'm getting myself into because I'm an ordinary American who knows what it's like to be worried about money. So I'm not careless with money, I look at the menu. He says that, he didn't have time to look at the menu. He was on an important business call. And so he ordered the breakfast without looking at the prices. And then he was shocked once he looked at the bill. By the way, he spent $26 for one waffle. Later, Bass clarified that it was only one waffle in a separate post.
Good.
Now, let's get into how Community Notes basically comes in with some messaging here, because Community Notes there was a community note on his post. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Items on this receipt match the menu for room service at the Carlisle Hotel, a 5-star hotel where the lowest rate on their website ranges from $945, including a $35 breakfast coupon, to $6,244 after fees for a room tonight, for one night. This guy's shocked that the breakfast cost him $85?
Yeah. Okay, so notes on Kyle Bassel. Brother, you're staying at a 5-star hotel, even if it's not a 5-star hotel and that's not exactly right. What difference does it make? You know you were staying at an incredibly high-end hotel. I mean, was it the Ramada Inn? Was it Motel 6, brother?
Howard Johnson.
Okay, it's likely a hotel called the Carlisle, okay? So you order at a super fancy hotel room service and you order like 8 different things and you're surprised it's $85? And by the way, that has nothing to do with inflation. That has to do with the fact that you're staying at a 5-star hotel and ordering a room service. You don't know that? You're a sophisticated finance guy and you didn't realize that posting this publicly would have people going, what a clueless dumbass. I'm sorry, dumbass. Okay, and I know he's gonna get real mad at this, but look, here's what you gotta understand. These folks, they don't live in the real world, they have a bubble. And everybody's got bubbles, everybody's got different bubbles, different realities that they live in. And in his bubble, he's owed the world. And if anything goes slightly wrong, I was expecting a fancy breakfast in bed at the best hotel for $75, not $85. Oh, I'm outraged. And he really thinks that that's an outrage and that people are gonna sympathize with him. Brother, you could buy anything you want. Just go enjoy it, go live on a yacht, just don't tweet about it, okay? Are you nuts? What do you not get, and they don't, this is what's the amazing part. You don't get that you're rubbing it in people's faces. Oh, I have tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars or $1 billion. But I paid a little too much at the fancy hotel for my brunch. And they don't get that that's what they look like. That's amazing that they don't get that. And the only thing I'll disagree with Anna is, he does Diet Coke for breakfast. I do Coke for breakfast.
Oh, Cenk, oh my God, you gotta look out for your health, bro.
Yeah, no, doesn't it look like I got it? Last thing, look, have I gone to fancy hotels in my life? Yeah, a couple of times. Have I gone to really nice places to eat a couple of times? I was never surprised by the price because you signed up to go to a fancy place. So you know why? Because a normal person braces for impact because that number hurts us and we know it and we're splurging for a special occasion or something. But this guy, he probably hasn't looked at a bill in so long. You have more money than God. Just relax and enjoy it instead of being and ordering Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, around because you didn't like the price of your waffle at the Carlisle.
Final thing I'll say is, look, what does Wall Street, like he's a hedge fund manager, okay? So think about what Wall Street cares about the most. Businesses maximizing their profits. So if certain businesses ride the inflation narrative wave and increase their prices beyond what they need to in order to maximize their corporate profits, they're doing it for shareholders.
Yeah.
They're doing it, again, that maximized profit translates to more money in the pockets of their shareholders, which is what the hedge fund managers also love, right?
Yeah, so Kyle,
so why are you crying, bitch? Isn't this what you want? This is what you want. This is what you fight for. And not everyone's a hedge fund manager, not everyone works in finance, not everyone works on Wall Street. Everyone else bears the brunt of higher prices as a result of these corporate profits.
Yeah.
And he's crying about it right now?
Yeah, so by the way, if you had invested in that company, you would be thrilled that they're charging $85,
100%, right? 100%.
So, and he didn't just order waffles and bacon and orange juice and coffee and Diet Coke and all. He also ordered fiduciary responsibility. Sorry, fiduciary responsibility for thee and for you as well, apparently.
Oh boy, there's a big breaking story. FBI raids 2 homes owned by top aide to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. I want to look into this story, and if it's interesting, we'll get into it.
Yep.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. Let's see if I can get enough information on this story and give you details when we come back.
Cenk, you're a natural born athlete. Back on the social break. Let's go to YouTube members. SV Brown says, next he'll be saying they charged me way too much for the slip to park my yacht. You might. Wonder Woman writes in, or women, love you guys from Iceland, right back at you. I'd love to go to Iceland. Visitor writes in, as depressing as everything is right now, I'm grateful we are all on the same page. Our pain is proof of the depth of our empathy and love of what our world should be. I love that statement, Visitor. Thank you. That's exactly right. If you're hurt by what's happening in Gaza, that means you're a good person and you have empathy. Treasure that. I know it's painful, but that means, like, I see many people who have no empathy, none, and that's got to be a terrible way to live. Eva Woodman writes in, we hug each other in hard times and keep going. We are stronger together and we keep going. TYT strong. Thank you so much. Now, Douche writes in, Mitch McConnell's consolation prize for not going through with a second impeachment, losing his leadership position. Good job, Mitch. Thanks. Yep, you reap what you sow. Cenk's raging emotions said, don't worry, Cenk, I'm a TYT member because of your raging emotions. I want to see passion when delivering the evils of the world and for the joys too. Yes, for the joys too, that would be great. And we do when we find those stories. Yoli Bear says, thank you, TYT, for being so real and honest. Love to all of you. Right back at you. You guys, soon I'm gonna go back to the Happiness Project. We're gonna do it on bonus episodes for the members on Tuesday. I'm gonna talk about how we achieve happiness. We gotta get some mental health in this world, okay? So look forward to that. I think I have interesting stories and tips for you guys, so that's coming in a little bit. Kenji writes in, I'm weeping, I love you, Cenk. Right back at you. I appreciate all of you guys. You make this possible. Note, Red Negsig writes in, the tone is appropriate for the level of anger we all feel, Cenk. Never stop and keep checking your blood pressure. I do, it's remarkably fine. I'm always surprised by it, and so is my doctor. Rav Q says, I'm so proud to be a member through YouTube and Twitch. Thank you. Remember, guys, if you have Amazon Prime, it is free for you, and we do get the revenue, even though it doesn't cost you anything. So the way you do that is tyt.com/prime. Greg Javert writes in, letting hundreds of thousands of people slowly starve to death. Insane. Greg, that's the thing that's driving me crazy. They're starving as we speak. And instead of going to help them, America's going to hurt them. Send $14 billion to starve them more and to kill them more. I can't stand it anymore. We'll be back. Cenk, you're a natural born athlete. TYT Cenk, Anna Zafilia, S. Claudette, Nishimi Yamana, and Lord Dice. Thank you guys for joining. They hit the join button below. You could also upgrade through there, and tyt.com/join. And not only will we take subscriptions, yes, we will take donations. It is definitely tough times, and we survive because of you guys. Thank you. All right, Anna.
Well, a huge breaking story out of New York, and this is from the Associated Press. Let's get into it. Authorities have raided 2 of the homes belonging to New York City Mayor Eric Adams' top advisor. Her name is Winnie Greco, and she does own 2 properties near one another. Both of them were raided by the FBI today. Now, an FBI spokesperson confirmed that agents carried out morning raids at 2 Bronx addresses, which again, records show are owned by Winnie Greco, a former fundraiser for Adams, who now serves as his director of Asian affairs. She's actually worked closely with him for the better part of the decade. And the purpose of the investigation was not revealed, and it wasn't immediately clear whether it was related to anything Eric Adams has done, but it was another sign of deepening law enforcement scrutiny of the Democratic mayor and members of his inner circle. So a person with knowledge of the matter, according to the Associated Press, said that the investigation that led to Thursday's raid was being overseen by the US Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, and that it was in fact separate from a criminal inquiry being conducted by federal prosecutors in Manhattan that led FBI agents to seize Eric Adams's electronic devices as he left an event last fall. So there are 2 different investigations taking place. The one that we are now hearing news of today, the 2 raids that occurred today, are separate from a different investigation that federal prosecutors are engaging in related to others in Eric Adams's inner circle. Now, neighbors of Greco said that federal agents began searching the 2 homes, which are on the same block. Greco was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. That's according to a City Hall spokesperson. She's a prolific fundraiser. She had closely worked with Adams for over a decade, and again, she serves as his conduit to the city's Asian American community. I want to get into some of the other elements of the separate investigation in just a moment, the one in which Adams's electronic devices were seized. But Cenk, any thoughts on this so far?
So this is a breaking story, trying to catch up on it as we're live on the show. So I'll give some general notes here. How do you tell when an investigation like this is real or not real? So because sometimes the powerful will target people that they don't like. So a good example of that is in my opinion, are the deans of Harvard and Penn. They got targeted after they apparently didn't yell at students enough over a hypothetical chant that didn't actually happen. You probably know the whole story. So then they dug into their lives to try to find out something that they did wrong so that they could come out and say, oh, she didn't have enough footnotes, so we can fire her. They're looking to get rid of them. Powerful people, not based on background or anything like that. But there was one particular hedge fund manager who actually spent money to do it, right? And so that is a targeting. They're picking a needle in a haystack of a person's career to try to ruin them. Well, in this case, in like the Bob Menendez story and the Eric Adams story, there's no reason why the powerful would want to target those 2. They have served the powerful really well. And so they're team players. They're not involved in any particular story where they're on the wrong side of the power equation.
Exactly.
So when you see something like this, I know the right wing is now like, hey, everything the government does is deep state. The deep state doesn't even exist anymore. There was a real deep state. They're basically bureaucrats now. But even if you think that they do, but why would they target Eric Adams or Bob Menendez? Sometimes the investigations are perfectly legitimate.
Exactly. So look, obviously, this is pending investigation, and so it's hard to give you what we genuinely think if we don't know for sure what kind of evidence has been revealed as a part of the investigation. But just preliminarily, I will say that this does not look at all like a politically motivated effort. In fact, there's some pretty damning allegations here, including some possible corruption involving Turkey. So let me give you those details. According to a report published by a local news outlet called The City, Greco had allegedly demanded that a city employee complete free renovations on her home when he was supposed to be working. Greco is at least the third aide to Eric Adams, whose home has been targeted by federal agents through these raids. In November, for instance, the FBI had raided the home of Brianna Suggs, a top fundraiser for Eric Adams, and Rana Abbasova, who worked in the mayor's international affairs office. 4 days later, agents quietly seized the mayor's cell phones and an iPad as he was leaving an event in Manhattan. So let's get to the allegations of his alleged corruption involving Turkey. So that investigation, which is being led by Manhattan prosecutors, is believed to be focused on whether the Adams campaign conspired with the Turkish government to receive illegal campaign contributions from foreign sources funneled through straw donors. And that's according to a warrant that the New York Times has already reported on. So, man, if they find evidence of that, that is not good news. And remember, the whole straw donor thing is what ended up screwing over that 2,000 Mules guy, right?
Dinesh D'Souza, that's right.
Dinesh D'Souza, yes.
And he went to jail for it, kind of. So straw donors are needed for a foreign government. So for example, one thing that they might do is, hey, here's a Turkish American or a rando Bob, right? And they're pretending he's giving the money to the politician, but in reality, it's the government and because the foreign governments are not allowed to give money to our politicians. And so one of the few things that is not allowed in American politics, otherwise almost everything is legalized bribery. You just hand them millions of dollars and call it campaign contributions, right? But a foreign government can't. I mean, some governments will never be investigated on this, ever, 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 okay? But I'm glad that they investigated Turkey or any other government, because I want all of them investigated. I don't want any of them buying off our politicians. So again, how do you know if this is real? It'd be an awfully random thing to make up for no apparent purpose.
Totally.
It's like the Azerbaijanis buying off Cuellar in Texas. I mean, who would even think to make that up, right? And you have to understand something. Raiding your home, not a big deal. Raiding a powerful person's home connected to a politician,
huge deal.
Huge deal. And the number one, they don't go to take that step at the FBI, and number two, the courts do not allow that step unless you have huge evidence, significant evidence. So we'll see in due time what it is, but for now, based on the information that we have, this looks like it's massive trouble for Eric Adams.
So we'll see, we'll give you updates as that story develops, but wow. I mean, look, I guess things are so dire that this is what the silver lining is, but at least people are getting investigated for illegal corruption.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I know other PACs that are named as we are helping this other foreign government. There's a PAC called Democratic Majority for Israel. And they give millions of dollars to politicians or millions of dollars against politicians, they use it. And then they say, no, this is not for Israel. Except your title says Democratic Majority for Israel. But that's legal, but this is not. So I don't think either one should be legal, but I'm glad that the FBI is actually doing real work to bust politicians. That's actually really encouraging. So I filed this under really good news.
I'm gonna interrupt our programming to read a super chat, believe it or not.
Wow.
And it's a super chat that was so wonderful that my mom screenshotted it and sent it to me. Okay, so this was touching for my mother, and I think it's important for me to read it. So it's from Armini, who says, I appreciate how you always separate people from their governments. In the Armenian genocide, my great-grandfather was sentenced to a death march, and the only reason he survived is because one Turkish soldier helped him escape.
Yeah, that's because we're all human beings. And normally when you see another person suffering, you help. Guys, it's all the labels. The labels are what's tearing us apart and creating endless wars. So, by the way, the correct answer to the plight of the Palestinians is not to hate the other side. The correct answer is to get the victims help. Yes, stop the bombing, stop the occupation, but don't go in the direction of hate. It does not help, okay? So I love that super chat. That was one of the ones I was gonna read from members, but there's more touching ones too. We'll do that after the show, tyt.com/join, or hit the join button below, and we'll read you more of those touching comments from the audience, and specifically the super chats in the bonus episode we do for the members. Thank you for writing that in, that was beautiful.
Yeah, and Armeni, there was a similar story having to do with my ancestors, so thank you for sharing that. All right, let's move on and talk about video games, God help me. So, according to new research from Norway, tweens and teens aren't just facing real life social pressures. With the internet and online gaming, they're facing other pressures as well. They're faced with the threat of bullying if they don't shell out money for skins or in free to play games like Fortnite, for instance. So before we get any further, if you are not familiar with the gaming world, let me inform you, because I myself happen to be a bit of an expert. So skins are in-game cosmetics that you can basically purchase to change the appearance of your character or other items. So think of things like weapons, maps, anything that could help your character win. Skins can be purchased with real money, in-game currency that you earn from playing the game, or both. And skins are they're like pretty crucial to the business model for free-to-play games like Fortnite, so that's how they make their money. Okay, with that said, researchers in Norway conducted 2 studies on how those games affect the social lives of young people, okay? Typically people from the ages of 10 to 15. That's the age group that they focused on for the purposes of this study. And they found that the video games add a new dimension to social pressures that kids have, which honestly makes a lot of sense. I mean, I would have been able to predict this if I was asked what kind of pressures video games might lead to. So with that said, some children might end up feeling excluded if they lack the resources like Wi-Fi, gaming equipment, in-game currency to play with their friends, or might get picked on because of what skin they are wearing. Children may experience being called poor if they haven't spent money on their character. Children who have spent money on their in-game character can gain increased attention and other advantages, thus buying popularity. So it's essentially a digital status symbol when you are using resources to change the skins of your character, to purchase these in-game, I guess, enhancements, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, not buying it. So that was funny.
Yeah, what was that? I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay.
Okay, so here's why. It's not that it's not happening. Of course it's happening, but it's been happening forever. I remember when I was a kid, we used to shop at Marshall's and buy things that were irregular, right? So some of you old school folks, you'll know that. And
Marshall's has stepped up their game since those days, and I will not allow anyone to besmirch Marshall's, TJ Maxx, or Home Goods on this program.
Okay.
Continue.
All right, so that's an important editorial note there. So when, not only in America, but when I went back to Turkey and during the summers, my friends would make fun of my shoes and go, and it's in Turkey, they'd be like, you live in America and you don't have Nikes? Like, you're crazy. They thought that Nikes were like the most golden, valuable thing in the world. And those cost a lot more, and Levi's jeans and stuff. Yeah, people actually thought that back in the day, right? And so now Levi's and Nikes has turned into skins in Fortnite. Okay, that's a very well-known phenomenon. And then the shaming that goes with that, et cetera. I actually think things are better now.
You are insane, because the shaming in regard to what the kids are wearing to school is still happening. That didn't go away. This is just another one. This is just added to the mountain of things that these poor kids are like full of anxiety about, because they're gonna get bullied if they don't have the right status symbol. I remember when I was a kid, my parents, for a very brief period of time, would send me to Armenian school on Saturdays. And then they would send me to Sunday school on Sundays, which was awful. But anyway, Saturday school was particularly awful because, in LA, there are many well-to-do Armenian families. They typically drive very nice cars, luxury cars. my parents didn't have money. So my mom had an old Oldsmobile. Do they even make that anymore?
Oldsmobile? No, it's not Oatsmobile, by the way.
Oldsmobile.
Okay, Oldsmobile.
Yeah, yes, okay.
I had one, I crashed it going to the SATs.
Those cars should be crashed. Okay, those cars are awful. But anyway, my mom picked me up from Saturday school. I was in a group of girls. I was very young, and they started making fun of the car. They're like, "What car is that? That's not a Mercedes. That's not a BMW." And I remember that was probably the first time I realized, oh, my family is. There's a thing called rich, and my family is not that. Okay, and it was awful. It was a really terrible feeling. And then after that, my parents stopped sending me there. So they actually did me a little bit of a favor.
You know, it's interesting. I just realized a common theme for almost everyone that works at TYT. We're almost all poor or middle class growing up. Yeah. Because everyone here has had a story just like that. And by the way, it's funny that we both had Oldsmobiles. And is there a car that has ever had a worse name than Oldsmobile?
Yes, the Nova, the Nova.
Yeah, that's true.
Which translates to doesn't go, right?
Yeah, in Spanish, that's right. So yes, you're right. But outside of doesn't go, this is a car, a mobile for old people. It's just pretty, it's as bad as it gets. Anyway, back to this story. I retract my statement because of social media. You're right, Anna. Yeah. The pressure's gotten worse. And it's not just your peer group in your school, it's everyone in the country, everyone in the world. So you're being compared to the most beautiful people, the best dressed people, the richest people, etc. Now, having said that, my small experience here is that my kids go to public school and my son plays Fortnite. And not only does he use the public stuff and he finds cool skins that people compliment him on, etc., right? But it's kind of a little bit of a faux pas to buy the skins, because you had to buy your way to a nice skin. You had to buy your way into popularity.
So it's based on, because you can also get the skins from merit, right? Like you're good at the game.
Yeah.
You're succeeding, and so you're getting the in-game money to buy the skins.
So it's almost considered by some, definitely not by all.
By the way.
Yeah, by some is almost cheating, right? Like, oh, you weren't good enough to earn it, so you had to buy it. So it's like there's a little bit of shame in buying it.
I think that's actually pretty good shame.
Yeah, that's interesting. Look, everybody sets it up in different ways, and there's different reasons why it makes sense to buy in some games and things and stuff, and not in others. But my point overall is shaming, especially for kids, has been around forever and ever. But just because it's been around forever doesn't mean you shouldn't be careful. Make sure that your kids don't buy into that crap about how they have to be rich or have this or that to be cool. No, I think it's the exact opposite.
So the main show producers just sent me an image of an Oldsmobile, and it just traumatized me. It just brought back a lot of dark. And by the way, my mom's car was also white, so the picture's white. I'm just like, oh my God.
So I crashed my dad's Oldsmobile, which just kind of makes sense, going to the SATs, and I totaled it. And so, but we were devastated because we needed that Oldsmobile. Okay, so that's.
I'm actually shocked that you totaled it, because that car was a tank.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but certain gangs really love that car. So that car got stolen so many times. My mom's car got stolen so many times, and then the authorities found it. And every time it came back, it had something new, devastatingly wrong with it. It was such a disaster. Then she put the club on it. Do you remember the club?
Of course, I had a club. I should have kept the club, because then my Pontiac Grand Am got stolen later. But it got stolen out of my garage, so somebody had a grudge. Yeah. Anyways, that's so funny that the gangs liked it for some reason.
I think they did the wheels and the to it.
Yeah, but they had to add the My dad, on the other hand, was. Can you imagine my dad bouncing down in suburban New Jersey? Anyways, I crashed it because we're out of time, as you can tell. I'm going to read the super chats in the beginning.
Yes, we've got some amazing stories in our bonus episode today. We're going to talk about concierge moms for college students who are studying out of state.
I do declare.
I think Cenk and I are gonna debate about it.
Yeah, because I'm secretly slightly in favor.
Oh my God,
Okay.
It's because you're a dad, that's why.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, so back to how I crashed the car.
Okay.
This is the kind of stuff we normally do in the bonus episode for the members, but since we have 30 seconds left. So it was a little wet. I didn't realize it was a little wet, or I did, but I didn't, I was young. Come out of a stop sign and start peeling out. And this is the problem with when you don't have enough experience. I panic and I start turning the wheel like crazy in the other direction. Don't do that. So then the car starts spinning and I drove into the woods, hit a tree, drove out of the woods, hit a tree on the other side of the road and broke the axle.
Wow.
All right, more in the bonus episode, tyt.com/join or hit the join button. We'll see you there.